Welcome to What Are You Sporting About podcast, a podcast about business, employment, sports, and entertainment to help educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Here's your host, attorney Sivonnia DeBarros.
Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us again for What Are You Sporting About podcast. I am your host, Sivonnia DeBarros, the protector of athletes. And before we jump in, look, I want to remind you to go and grab your copy of the best-selling book, What Are You Sporting About? I want you to be motivated, educated, and encouraged to your very next level, just like all of our other listeners and readers out there. So today I have two amazing women who are joining me on the podcast. Let me just tell you a little bit about who they are. So I have with me Toya and Emilas. They are creators and hosts of Too Much Info, a sports show that's about everything but sports. The show is dedicated providing a platform for minority athletes to showcase their interests, passions, and hobbies off of their field of play. So Toya and Emilas are also the current president and vice presidents of Minorities in Sports Next, which is an organization dedicated to breaking down the barriers for minorities interested in pursuing a career in sports business. Graduating this May, they both plan to enter their professional careers in sports business by pursuing careers in sports brand marketing and sports wealth management. That is a mouthful. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Super excited to be a part of it.
Thank you guys for being here. Turn up your volume just a little bit because it was hard for me to hear you. But you know, you ladies are doing something amazing. So I ran across a post that you both listed on or shared on LinkedIn, and it really piqued my interest. So I definitely had to have you guys on the show. So what motivated you or actually just lit this fire in you to create something so amazing?
Yeah, well, I guess I could start. So with our e-board, we had an e-board meeting a few months ago, and we were just trying to bounce off ideas for what we could do for the semester. And one of our e-board members suggested an athletes panel. And then from there, Emilas and I really were able to take it and run with it. And we decided that we wanted to create a show that allowed Penn State athletes to have a voice and really just talk about everything, you know, off the field or off of the court. And we just wanted them to just be their authentic selves and to just have a little bit of fun and, you know, come on the show and let loose. So that's kind of where it stemmed from.
That's so awesome. I think a lot of student athletes and just students in general are always worried about the next thing, like what's going to happen after I graduate, always working towards that next thing. At least I definitely was that kind of student. I was so tunnel vision. I was so stuck on what I was doing in the moment that sometimes we can allow fear to keep us from actually thinking outside the box, that we are incapable of doing more things. We are more than just athletes. We are more than just students. And you guys definitely show that with the shows that you've created at your university for the benefit of these minority student athletes. So what are some of the topics or issues that you guys have been delving into in the show Too Much Info?
Yeah, so we started off the season with our football team just because it's so big. We didn't know how many of the guys would be able to cover throughout the season. We were able to host four or five guys, I believe, 5 guys. And it was just everything except sports, like we said. It was just super lighthearted funs and games to help them kind of showcase their personalities. And also for our, you know, the student community at Penn State to get to know them off of the field of play. We have things like, we have a section that's like this or that. And then there's another one where we kind of talk about current music and what they're into and things like that. So our viewers really loved it. Originally, it was just meant for like, you know, MIS members to kind of just like get to know them, but it's gotten a lot of traction and people that aren't members of MIS and just students in the Penn State community have been able to tune in.
That is so awesome. That's really good. And you ladies, so you actually want to do something post your college careers in sports and sports marketing. Can you guys share a little bit of what your aspirations are with that?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I would say that I'm definitely open to a lot, but I think that working for an agency upon graduation is something that I would completely love to do. I'm also open to working for a few sports teams as well. But I did just find that my passion was in brand marketing a few months ago. So like I said, I'm definitely open to a lot.
That's awesome. And that I'm glad that you said that, because I think one of the keys to success is being willing and putting yourself in a position to evolve. So sometimes what we may be passionate about at one moment, it may actually change later on. So as you're finding what interests you and piques your passions or your purpose, when you evolve, those things may actually change and evolve with you. So kudos to you for realizing that and not getting stuck into something that you look back on later and be like, this wasn't for me. And what about you, young lady? What is it that you do in?
So when I started school, I actually was headstrong in finance, accounting, and I just knew that someday I was going to be in New York, Wall Street. Like that was just what I was going to do. But I always had this passion for sports, just growing up around it in Maryland. Just always had that passion, but for some reason, I had this thought that you can either be like the athlete, the coach, or maybe like an agent. And that was all the careers that sports business had to offer. So I never really went in deeper and tried to find something different. So I went through college kind of like with that mentality. And then through MIS, and once MIS fell into our lap and we started like doing more research and things like that, I was able to be like, you know what? There's something else. Like I can even go into like sports wealth management. That's like a tie-in of like everything I want to do. But then like Toya said, like same here, brand marketing and sports brand marketing just became a whole new world that I was so focused. I am now focused on, and I want to get myself into. Post grad, I plan on entering like the financial realm and working in sports wealth management, but while still trying to tap into brand marketing.
Sounds good. Amazing. Now, you guys have both mentioned MIS. Can you define what that is for our listeners?
Yeah, definitely. So Minorities in Sports Next, it is a college chapter of Minorities in Sports, which was actually founded by Shauna Wheel. She's the founder of both Minorities in Sports and Minorities in Sports Next. But we just run the Penn State chapter, and we've been able to start that up last semester. So what it does, it's really just a space for minorities to come together and really just talk and share their experiences in sports, and also to learn about different job opportunities as well in sports. And it's just a network that allows people to come together.
I love it. So the biggest crux of what I see with what you guys are doing, it is so synonymous with what this platform is about. What are you sporting about? And I know I asked you this question before because a lot of what you're sporting about, I think athletes in general get caught up in the sport itself, but never really think about what it all means at the end of the day. What does it boil down to? And so your shows and the things that you guys have been getting into, it takes them back. It takes them back to a place where they find joy. You know, they find the things that they're passionate about. They can speak on other things that are not centered around sports. And I definitely think that helps them to find that core purpose of what it is that they actually want to do, where do they want to go, you know, who can listen to whatever issues that they may be facing at that time. So I want you guys to answer that question again for me. For you, what are you sporting about mean?
For me, when you reached out to us about the podcast was something that I really did think about. And the most important thing that I've been focusing on is really just, you look at sports and I think it's filled with minority faces, but then you look at the business side and it's not necessarily that. It's actually quite the opposite. So it's really all about kind of creating a bridge for those faces to be reflected in the office side, in the business side. And that's something that I want to work on, honestly, for the rest of my career. So
that's awesome. And Toya, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Emilas said. I think that, starting the MisPSU chapter really allowed me to find that I'm really passionate about that as well, just like helping other students, break into the industry that look like me, other minorities as well. And I think it really is just so important for our voices to be heard and for us to have equal opportunities because we're just as capable as anyone else.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like MIS was so important to Toya and I when that opportunity came in to launch at Penn State, because Toya and I are both students at our business school, which is really not the most diverse, and definitely not when it comes to like athletes. I know so many people going to college wanting to major in business. So many student athletes come in wanting to major in something in the business realm. And when we're in classes in SMEAL, you don't really see too many minority faces, let alone minority student athletes. So this organization has helped us reach out to those student athletes that still want to pursue some sort of business, like career in business, or just even learn more about the business side of sports. So that's really where the passion in MIS came from for me. And I know Toy can agree, because it's really not minority filled. Like SMEAL is honestly, Toy, what would you say? Like probably one of the hardest schools to get into at Penn State, just because all of our majors are controlled. For every business major except for finance, you need at least a 3.2 to apply into the major, and then finance is a 3.5 to get into. So you already eliminate so many minorities, and then on top of that, student athletes who are working, 40-hour work weeks for their sport, in addition to maintaining their academic status. So there's definitely like that disconnect, and we're hoping Minorities in Sports Next at Penn State helps bridge that.
That's awesome. And there's so many different professions that have those barriers for entrance there. And you're right. Sometimes with those GPAs, it makes the minority population, it creates another hurdle for them. Not that we're incapable of achieving that, but then comparing the minority community against the other communities in this country, some minority, and especially if we're looking at minority athletes themselves, they come from communities where they may have to work in addition to parents. They have other things that they have to do. And so sometimes education is put on the back burner, and the GPAs are not as high as they could be. Not that they're incapable, because I think that we definitely are. We are some of the most brilliant people in the world. So having a space like this is amazing. And you guys are definitely setting a foundation and a path to help and uplift other minorities, to tell them like, hey, you can do this. And so as with everything, there is a hurdle to it. And we know we have to persevere to overcome those hurdles. So I want to know from you ladies, have there been any hurdles with starting Too Much Info show and doing the Penn State chapter for MIS? Have you guys encountered any hurdles? And if you have, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, well, I think the first hurdle that we definitely had was the platform that we were using and trying to make recap videos and post them on our social media account. We realized that the quality was not necessarily what we wanted it to be. So now we're switching platforms for that this semester, and we're hoping that things do turn out a lot better for the quality. But that was something that we had to realize, because of course we've never actually hosted a show, especially not on Zoom. So that was definitely new for us.
Yeah, I can agree. To me, one of the biggest struggles that we had was just, even with MIS, like launching that chapter and then Too Much Info on top of that during a completely virtual time because of the pandemic was probably the hardest. Like trying to recruit students that are interested in sports and in sports business, and then on top of that, getting viewers for the show and spreading word about it. Not that people aren't interested, but getting people to even like have it on their forefront, like see it and advertising it and things like that. when everything is so new and no one, like there was no precedent for it, you know? Luckily we were able to, like marketing wise with MIS, we just had an amazing team where we were able to launch like our social media accounts and things like that, which saw like fast growth. And we have been able to retain like a good amount of membership. But you know, it's a work in progress as always, just being in such unprecedented times.
Absolutely. I agree. The two things I pull out of that from you guys are, first off, pivoting. So pivoting with the times. And I know you've probably heard that term thrown around so much, especially in this pandemic, because a lot of people are finding themselves working from home and doing things completely different than what they would normally do. But then also having a team to assist you, which is also very important. You ladies are both in business school. And so you know how impactful a team is to help you to move from one level to the next, so that you can be successful and see growth. Are there any final tips or advice, words of wisdom that you will want to share with your fellow minority student athletes before we wrap up?
For sure. I think one of the most important things is that you don't really need like a specific major or because like I said, at Penn State, not only is the business school so difficult, but also we don't have any actual sports business majors or anything. There's no sports management. There isn't anything like that. So it's either you're in the business school or you're majoring in something different other than what is a major, Toya? There's like a rec, parks and tourism major. So just to anyone, when we're recruiting for MIS and things like that, we know those comm majors, there's so many things that you can do in sports business, and to not limit yourself when you're discovering careers within it. So, and to not let your major like hold you back at all. That's probably going to be my biggest advice.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And then I'd also say, don't be intimidated by others and like their path and how far ahead you may think that they are from you, because I know at times, like this is speaking to myself as well, I'll get caught up in what someone else is doing and like experiences they have had and thinking that, oh, I can never get that internship opportunity because I don't have the same type of experiences that someone else has had. But I think that you just have to be confident in yourself and know that you're more than capable, and just go out and also network with people. That's super important. And just get the skills that the soft skills that you need in order to be successful in the industry. Because I think that once you can really talk to people, and that's like one of the biggest things in the sports industry, being a people person and being able to just talk to people. So I'd say definitely make sure to focus on that instead of on others and their experiences.
Very well said, ladies. Very well put. I agree 100%. So these little nuggets, I hope that our listeners can take this and implement this in their lives for not only just a greater awareness of what they can do themselves, but a greater awareness for what they are capable of. So don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to have a team. Find your confidence. Know that you are capable and network your butt off, because you absolutely have no idea who's in the room that can help you. So make sure you talk to everybody, share what your passions are, share about your purpose, and someone will help you. So like I said, guys, make sure you go and get your copy of What Are You Sporting About, the book, best-selling book. Some of these key terms we actually have conversations in the book about. And you will not be sorry. But I want to give a special thanks to my guests. I definitely appreciate you ladies for coming on to the platform today to share with me about the work you're doing with Penn State University, with the Too Much Info show and Minorities in Sports Next. It has been a pleasure, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you. You guys take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on What Are You Sporting About podcast. Make sure to visit our website, prosportlawyer.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite platform is. so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or iHeartRadio. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, What Are You Sporting About? Attorney Sivonnia DeBarros is available for private consulting at sldebarros.com. And remember, we're here to educate, support, and guide you in your journey to success because we're all sporting about something.